DeepSeek V3.1 didn't just meet expectations, it utterly annihilated them. A massive 685 billion parameters, an astonishing 128,000 token context window, and benchmark scores that outshone even Claude Opus 4, all while being an incredible 68 times cheaper to operate. This wasn't a carefully orchestrated marketing event, it simply appeared on Hugging Face with zero fanfare, and within mere hours, the entire AI community realized this open-source release was making a direct, undeniable challenge to the likes of GPT-5. The implications are profound, and they're just starting to sink in. The sheer audacity of this release caught everyone off guard, not because of some clever marketing campaign, but purely because of the raw, undeniable performance metrics. Imagine the buzz when a 71.6% score on the ADER programming benchmark started circulating. For context, Claude Opus 4 had been reigning supreme at the top of those very same rankings. Yet here was an open model, seemingly from nowhere, not just competing but nudging past it. The astonishment didn't stop there. Developers who began testing it quickly discovered something truly transformative. A coding task that might cost upwards of $70 on a closed, proprietary system could now be executed for approximately $1. For enterprises or startups running thousands of such tasks daily, this isn't just a cost saving, it's a paradigm shift that redefines entire operational budgets. This is the kind of leap that changes how businesses approach AI adoption. At its core, this powerhouse model boasts 685 billion parameters, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But it's not just about raw scale, it's about practical utility. Its context window stretches to an enormous 128,000 tokens, granting it the capacity to ingest and process truly massive inputs without any noticeable slowdown. To put that into perspective, in traditional Chinese characters, that's roughly equivalent to 100,000 to 160,000 characters, or about 1/6 of A Dream of Red Mansions, one of the country's most epic literary classics. People immediately began stress testing it, throwing enormous documents and complex data sets its way. While the model could realistically manage about 1/10 of something that gargantuan with optimal performance, the results were consistently accurate and remarkably fast. Speed was another major point of surprise. Previous reasoning-heavy models often struggled, slowing to a crawl when confronted with intricate or multi-step queries. DeepSeek V3.1, however, ripped through these same tasks, providing almost instantaneous responses. Developers quickly observed that something fundamental had changed beneath the surface. This wasn't merely a scaled-up version. It was meticulously optimized. The secret, it turns out, lies in its innovative architecture. DeepSeek has introduced what they term a hybrid architecture. Historically, attempts at hybrid models often ended in disappointment, trying to juggle reasoning, chatting, and coding capabilities, but ultimately performing mediocrely across the board. V3.1 marks a pivotal moment where these diverse roles are made to work together in seamless harmony. The distinct R1 label, previously used for their reasoning model, is now gone. Everything has been consolidated and defaults to V3.1. This consolidation signifies a clear strategic move. DeepSeek is no longer fragmenting its efforts across multiple models. They've placed their bets firmly on one flagship system, confident in its all-encompassing capabilities. Community researchers, with their insatiable curiosity, delved into the model's inner workings, examining its weights, and made an intriguing discovery. 4 hidden tokens. These were search begin and search end for real-time information retrieval, alongside think and end think for internal reasoning processes. This implies that V3.1 possesses the ability to engage in private thought before formulating an answer, and if properly connected, it can even fetch up-to-the-minute information directly from the web. These revelations hinted at features the AI community had long yearned for: native, integrated reasoning and search capabilities, all packaged within an open-source framework. And the benchmarks continued to validate the initial excitement. On SVG Bench, a crucial test for visual and structural reasoning, V3.1 placed just behind GPT 4.1 Mini, significantly outperforming DeepSeek's own earlier R1 model. On MMLU, the gold standard test for broad language understanding, it impressively held its own against GPT-5, while GPT-5 still demonstrated superior performance on advanced challenges like graduate-level Q&A and complex software engineering tasks. The sheer fact that an open model could come this close was nothing short of a monumental achievement. Even on notoriously tricky logical comparisons, like differentiating between 9.11 and 9.9, V3.1 consistently got it right, demonstrating a remarkable resilience against those classic numerical pitfalls that often trip up other models. But perhaps the most recurring headline, the one that truly resonated, was its unparalleled cost efficiency. Andrew Christensen, a respected AI researcher, laid out the numbers in stark, undeniable terms. 71.6% on Aider, 1% above Claude Opus 4, and 68 times cheaper. This wasn't abstract theorizing. It was concrete, practical proof that hit hard because it allowed people to calculate precisely how much money this would save them in their real-world workflows. The timing of this launch could not have been more perfectly calculated either. OpenAI had just unveiled GPT-5. Anthropic had recently released Claude 4. Both were aggressively marketed as cutting-edge frontier systems, locked behind proprietary APIs with premium pricing structures. DeepSeek chose that exact moment to quietly upload V3.1 without any fanfare as a free open-source download. The message was unmistakable. While American companies guard their frontier systems as valuable intellectual property, DeepSeek was treating its frontier model as a piece of public global infrastructure. This approach aligns perfectly with China's broader national strategy. As far back as 2020, their 14th five-year plan explicitly championed open-source AI development. The underlying philosophy was clear: accelerate global adoption by openly sharing powerful models, even if it meant foregoing immediate short-term profits. And it's working. The trending lists on Hugging Face have been increasingly dominated by Chinese releases, and V3.1 skyrocketed into the top 5 within hours of its release. The reaction from the global developer community was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Victor Mustar, Hugging Face's own head of product, tweeted that open-source AI was at its peak, pointing directly to models like this as the definitive proof. On platforms like Reddit, users quickly noted the disappearance of the think button from earlier versions, observed outputs that were both longer and more detailed, and confirmed that the benchmarks looked even stronger than initially expected. Before DeepSeek had even published the official model card, V3.1 was already trending globally. This, however, isn't the first time DeepSeek has sent shockwaves through the industry. Back in January, when they unveiled the original V3, they revealed a stunning detail. Training had cost only $5.6 million, utilizing approximately 2,000 slower NVIDIA chips. This was an unheard-of figure in a world where everyone assumed that hundreds of millions, if not billions, were required to train frontier-level systems. The news alone reportedly wiped $600 billion off NVIDIA's market cap in a single day. At that time, governments quickly moved to ban the chatbot version of DeepSeek due to fears about user data potentially residing on Chinese servers. With V3.1, the situation is distinctly different. This isn't merely a chatbot, it's an open foundational model released to the entire world. The economics here are brutal for traditional competitors. Conventional AI development relies on gargantuan investments, massive data centers, top-tier research talent, rigorous compliance. And those immense costs must inevitably be recouped through exorbitant API fees. DeepSeek has completely flipped this model on its head. By freely giving away advanced capabilities, they are dramatically accelerating global adoption, while simultaneously forcing closed competitors to rigorously justify their premium pricing. It's the same disruptive dynamic we witnessed with the rise of open-source software like Linux. Once the free open-source version becomes good enough, or in this case, even better in many respects, the paid proprietary option begins to look far less appealing. Of course, there are practical limits. The full model is around 700 gigabytes, meaning most individuals won't be running it locally on their desktop. However, cloud providers are already rapidly preparing hosted versions, effectively removing that barrier almost immediately. Enterprises will soon be faced with a very simple, yet profound question. Why pay premium rates for closed, proprietary models when a frontier-level, open alternative is readily available and waiting to be deployed, DeepSeek's official community has already exploded past 80,000 members, and that momentum shows no signs of slowing down. And there's a certain profound irony in the name artificial intelligence. For years, what was truly artificial wasn't the intelligence itself, but rather its scarcity. Access to these powerful systems was artificially locked behind corporate paywalls and geopolitical restrictions. DeepSeek has just unequivocally proven that those walls were never truly necessary. By releasing V3.1 openly and without restriction, they have demonstrated that frontier intelligence can, and should, be shared without artificial barriers. So, when people describe this release as disruptive, it is no exaggeration. We're talking about a model with 685 billion parameters, a colossal 128,000 tokens of context, benchmark scores that definitively beat Claude Opus 4, and operating costs that make all closed models look outdated and overpriced. All of this simply appeared online, without warning and without a price tag. DeepSeek V3.1 has fundamentally reset global expectations for what open-source AI can achieve. And if this is merely the groundwork for V4, then the true seismic shockwaves may still be ahead of us. That's all for this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.